Ever get hit with those what ifs? You know, like, ugh, if only I hadn't.
Oh, those if-onlys. We all know those.
It's regret. Right. And we're diving deep into that feeling today. Daniel Pink's book, The Power of Regret. It's kind of amazing how much we try to avoid even thinking about regret, much less like actually talking about it.
Right, like it's this big taboo.
But Pink's take is, well, it's not something to fear. In fact, it can be really useful.
Yeah, he actually starts the book with Edith Piaf.
The singer.
Yeah, the Je n'ai regret Rianne lady.
Oh, right, the no regrets anthem.
Literally no regrets, which is, well, kind of ironic.
Because her life, let's just say, it was full of choices. Choices that a lot of us would probably look back on and be like, maybe not that.
Exactly. And that's Pink's point. He's saying that whole no regrets philosophy, it's often more for show than, actual reality.
It's like those no regrets tattoos you see, right?
Oh, totally.
You get that tattoo, then suddenly you have to pretend you don't have any regrets.
You've got to come.
Right, but Pink, he's so clever. He actually uses those tattoos as, like, evidence.
It's brilliant. He goes out and interviews people with no regrets tattoos.
Yeah.
And guess what? They all have regrets.
Shocker.
Right. But it's so freeing because it dismantles this whole tough guy image and just makes space for honesty. It's like, okay, we're human. We make choices. Some of them we do differently now.
Oh, totally.
And that's fine. That's how we learn and grow. That's how we become, better versions of ourselves.
So we've tossed out the no regrets myth. But here's where things get really interesting. The different types of regret and how they actually impact us.
Oh, yeah, this is where it gets juicy.
Are you ready to analyze some Olympic medalists?
Always.
Okay, Olympic medalists, bring it on.
All right, so Pink compares bronze and silver medalists. And at first you'd think, like, the bronze medalists, they'd be the bummed ones, right?
Totally. Almost didn't even get a medal.
Right. But they're often ecstatic.
No,
Over the moon, like, I'm on the podium.
Yeah, at least they got a medal. That's their vibe.
Exactly, at least thinking. Big time. But then you look at the silver medalists.
And they're the ones, like, replaying every single second of the race in their heads.
Oh, yeah. Totally fixated on those if-onlys. Like, if only I'd pushed just a little harder. If only I shaved a second off my time.
So close, yet so far.
And that's Pink's point, right? He's saying that if only thinking, it's way more common than we realize. And it often pops up when we're this close to success, like those silver medalists.
Ah, it's brutal. I can practically feel the phantom weight of that gold medal they're imagining. Like, ouch.
Right. And it seems counterintuitive. Like, shouldn't we focus on the positive? At least I got this far, right?
Yeah, be happy with what you have.
But Pink says those if-only thoughts, as painful as they can be, they're actually highlighting areas for growth. They're showing us where we can improve.
So it's not just about feeling good or bad in the moment. It's about using those feelings to actually do something. At least thinking, it might feel good right now, but...
It doesn't really push you to do better next time, does it?
Exactly. You're just you're off the hook. But if only, that's like, okay, I see where I could have improved. Let's take that knowledge and crush it next time.
And that brings us to Pink's framework of the 4 core regrets.
Oh, there are categories of regret now.
Oh, yeah. He didn't just stop at least versus if only. He analyzed thousands of regrets, and it turns out they actually fall into these 4 buckets: foundation regrets, boldness regrets, moral regrets, and connection regrets.
Okay, so much deeper than just like work, love, life, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is about the why. What's a foundation regret?
So imagine that story, the ant and the grasshopper. You know the one?
Oh, yeah, vaguely.
Right, so the ant, he's working hard all summer, getting ready for winter, storing up food and all that. The grasshopper, just chilling, partying, no worries.
Classic grasshopper.
Right, but then winter comes.
And the grasshopper's like, uh-oh.
Exactly. So foundation regrets, they're those like, should have started saving sooner moments. Or if only I had taken better care of my health when I was younger. It's that realization that we didn't lay the groundwork. And now, well, now we're playing catch up.
Oof, yeah. Like, if only I had started that retirement fund when... Okay, not going to name names.
Right, but it's less about the thing itself and more about this deeper understanding that we didn't set ourselves up for success.
Got it. Okay, what about boldness regrets? Those sound kind of familiar.
Oh, we all have them. Pink tells this great story about Bruce and Sandra.
Bruce and Sandra.
Okay, so picture this. They're both on a train. And Bruce, he's totally smitten with Sandra, but he's too shy to say anything.
Oh, no, I see where this is going.
Years later, Bruce gets a letter from Sandra. Turns out she felt the same way.
Right.
She was too nervous to say anything either.
Ugh, double ouch. Missed connection.
Right. And that's the thing about boldest regrets. They make us question our whole path. Like, if only I'd been braver, my life could be completely different. It's that what if that really gets you.
Totally. It's like, who could we have become if we'd just gone for it?
Exactly.
Okay, next category, moral regrets. Those have got to be the toughest.
They definitely carry a lot of weight, yeah. Pink's research, he found stories of bullying, infidelity, betrayal, basically times when people's actions didn't line up with their own values.
Yeah, you kind of have to live with those.
And that's where the regret festers. It's that dissonance, knowing you went against your own moral compass.
And often, those are the ones that are hard to forgive yourself for.
For sure. And they can also be a catalyst for change, too. Like a wake-up call to start living a more ethical life moving forward.
Makes sense. Okay, last category of regret, connection regrets. This is the biggest one.
It is, yeah. And when you think about it, it makes sense. We're social creatures,
Yeah.
right? Connection is fundamental to who we are. Pink tells this very poignant story about Amy who, well, she missed the chance to reconnect with her friend, Deepa, before she passed away. Yeah, Amy was afraid of an awkward conversation, so she didn't reach out. And that regret, it stayed with her, really shaped how she approached future relationships.
Oh, that's heavy, but so relatable. It's like we avoid that potentially awkward conversation in the moment, and then it becomes this missed opportunity that we carry with us.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the most difficult conversations, those are the most important ones to have.
Totally. Okay, so we've explored these different flavors of regret, and it seems like the takeaway here is that regret, it's a complex emotion, it's layered, it's not just about feeling bad, it's about understanding those feelings, learning from them. But, like, how do we actually do that? How do we take all this if-only energy and turn it into something, positive?
Well, that's where Pink's three-step process comes in. Self-disclosure, self-compassion, and self-distancing. It's a framework for processing regret in a healthy way, in a way that actually helps you move forward.
Okay, a framework. I like it. So, self-disclosure, self-compassion, self-distancing. Let's break that down. Self-disclosure. So that's like what? Airing out our regret laundry?
Basically, it's
Yeah.
about getting those regrets out of our heads and into the open. Talk about it. Journal about it. Even voice memo, if that's your thing.
So we're not just like letting them bounce around in our heads, making us feel bad.
Exactly. Because when we hold on to regrets in secret, they tend to fester and grow bigger than they need to be.
Right. It's like that feeling you get when you finally confide in a friend about something you've been stressing about.
Totally. Just saying it out loud can be such a relief.
Huge relief. Okay, so self-disclosure, check. Next up, self-compassion. This is where we're nice to ourselves, right?
Exactly. This one can be tough. Because so often, we're our own worst critics.
Oh, tell me about it. The shame spirals I've put myself through. Not pretty.
Right. But Pink reminds us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend who's struggling.
Oh, 100%. If a friend told me some of the things I beat myself up for, I'd be like, dude, chill out. It's not that big of a deal. We all make mistakes.
Precisely. Self-compassion isn't about making excuses for our actions. It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress. We're all learning and growing.
Love that. Okay, and last step, self-distancing. This one sounds kind of, I don't know, like woo.
A little bit, but it's really about perspective. Think of it like, imagine you're a scientist, right? And you're observing your regret through a microscope.
Okay, I could see that.
You're not getting caught up in the emotions of it. You're just trying to understand it. What led to this decision? What factors were at play? What can we learn from this data point?
So less emotional, more analytical.
Exactly. We're looking for the lessons, not dwelling in the feels.
Got it. And this is how regret goes from being this negative, icky thing to...
To a tool for growth. We start to see those if-only moments as opportunities. Opportunities to make different choices next time.
It's like that classic abuse, right? Don't cry over spilled milk. But Pink's taking it a step further.
He's saying, don't just move on. Figure out why you spilled the milk in the first place so you don't keep doing it.
Right. Don't repeat the same mistakes. Okay, so we're getting better at dealing with our current regrets. But Pink also talks about anticipating regret, right? Like using it almost like a decision-making tool.
Exactly. It's like projecting yourself into the future and asking, how will I feel about this decision in a week, year, 5 years?
Okay, so it's like a future regret checkup.
Yeah. And it can be really powerful. Like, think about Jeff Bezos and Amazon.
Oh, right. He had that whole regret minimization framework.
Exactly. He basically asked himself, when I'm 80, will I regret more not taking this chance or taking it and potentially failing?
And boom, Amazon was born. Talk about a power move.
Mhm.
But I have to imagine there's a danger in, like, overthinking it, right? Getting stuck in analysis paralysis.
Oh, for sure. And Pink talks about that. He's not saying to let anticipated regret rule your life. It
Yeah.
shouldn't make you risk averse.
Right, because sometimes you gotta just go for it.
Exactly. We can't predict the future. We can only make the best decision we can right now with the information we have, and then be open to whatever happens.
And maybe have a few less regrets along the way. So I think the big takeaway here is regret, it gets a bad rap.
It really does.
But it can actually be a really powerful teacher if we're willing to listen.
And it's like Pink says, regret makes us human. Regret makes us better. Regret gives me hope.
I love that. It's not the end of the story, it's just the beginning of a new chapter. So next time you feel that twinge of regret, remember to be kind to yourself, learn from it, and then let it go. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.